Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Success Grade podcast with your host. With me today, Devin Miller. Devin runs his own patent and trademark law firm to help startups and small businesses. He also founded his first startup while earning his law degree. Since then, Devin has founded several 6 and 7 and 8-figure businesses also. Devin, welcome to the grid. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
Awesome.
Life is good and no complaints. And thank you for having me on.
Awesome to have you here. So give us first of all your story, because you are into law, you studied law, you got your MBA degree, and then after that I assume you started your business. So what happens between you getting your degree and transforming into entrepreneurship basically?
Yeah, so when I guess I'd almost back up just a little bit. So when I was finishing undergraduate, that's probably where me kind of looking at or otherwise going into entrepreneurship more started, in the sense that when I was looking to, when I was graduating for undergraduate and I got degrees in electrical engineering and Chinese, I was kind of thinking, what did I want to be when I grew up, in the sense of what did I want to do and how did I want to do it? And I kind of had two things that interested me. One is, I loved entrepreneurship, loved small businesses. And on the other side, I also found the legal aspect as far as intellectual property, patents and trademarks interesting. And so I was trying to decide if I want to go do more of a business and a master's degree, if I wanted to go get a law degree. And I decided to go do both. And that kind of put me on the track for, ever since then of kind of following in that mantra of, why choose one or the other? I'd like to do both. And so I went and did law degree and while I was or the MBA degree at the same time. But then also alongside of that, I started the first business that is still going today and still active or while I was still doing the law degree and the MBA degree. So even prior to graduating, and that company is now an 8-figure business and continues to move forward. But that one is kind of where I started. And then I graduated, focused on law as my day job, alongside of doing our different startups and small businesses. And then about 3.5 years ago is really when I decided, hey, I'd like to, on the legal side as well as on the business side, just fully make the jump, do my own thing. And so that's when I started the law firm, running my own law firm, as well as meshing in or combining in with that, doing a lot of the businesses that I run. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of how or what I've been doing.
So when did you started? Did you feel like it was going to be something hard to be an entrepreneur or starting a business? Because I assume there are a lot of people or companies or attorneys that work in the field that you are working in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question was it hard, or do I anticipate it being hard? And I think probably, or yes to a degree and no to a degree, in the sense I think every entrepreneur probably has a bit of naivete, or is a bit naive when they start out, because if you knew of all the things that could go wrong, or all the stresses and the other things that you're going to have to worry about, you'd probably never get started, because you would be overwhelmed, or you would otherwise be demoralized. And so, having done it a bit and running other businesses, prepared, but when you make that full-time leap to where, hey, your paycheck every week and the business success or failure is squarely on your shoulders, it is a bit of a difference. And so to a degree, there was a bit of fear and a bit of, worry and concern as I made that leap. And on the other hand, probably a bit of naiveness that a lot of those things I didn't learn till later on.
Yeah, of course. In order for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, there is some kind of road, and you have to take it with the successes and failures, I assume, right?
Yep, I think that if you only watch the television shows or the movies and you think everybody that starts their own business is going to be successful, you're going to be disappointed. And if you think you're going to be an overnight success and you don't really have to do anything to make that a success, you're also going to be disappointed. So there is those ups and downs and those bumps and bruises along the way, but there's also a lot of fun and enjoyment and excitement. You just have to be ready, I think, for all of everything along the way.
Yeah, so from a certain angle, from your experience, what is the important thing that someone should look out first when starting a business, specifically in the kind of area that you are in?
Yeah, I think when you're starting a business, and and I'll get to a little bit more specific where I'm in, is that the first thing is you need to understand is what is the value of the core of your business? In other words, where are you going to offer it, or what's going to be the value that customers are going to come and give you money or pay you for your services? And that's where you should start. In other words, and it can't just be, hey, we're going to go and sell a product. Well, why are people going to buy from you? What's the plan? And is it a product that you're making? Is it a drop shipping? And are you going to do marketing or sales or customer service? And then once you kind of figure out, here's a core of our business, well, here's where it's going to make money, then you need to have a plan to protect that. And sometimes that's with what we do at the law firm with intellectual property, and that can be a brand and you do a trademark, or you can create a new product and that's with a patent, or you can do something really creative and a lot of good content, and that's with copyright. Or it can be something that's not aside from that. It can be, hey, we're just going to have really good customer service. We're going to have really good staff and team, and are going to be responsive and helpful. And whatever that is, that's what you should do. And then learn, or once you figure out that core, and then look to how you protect it or how you keep that competitive edge. And if it's in the legal field, then go out and connect up with an attorney and otherwise get that assistance. And if it's not, make sure however you do to protect that.
No, so let's get into your area specifically. Now,
Sure.
there are a lot of things that we are looking into: trademarks, copyrights, and patents. So what are the difference exactly between these three, for example? And do every business need to differentiate and have certain things involved in these three areas, for example?
So I'll answer the first question, which is what are each of them, and then talk a little bit about whether you need them. So one thing I would say is a lot of times there's an umbrella term that is called intellectual property. So a lot of times you say, hey, people refer to intellectual property. It's kind of an umbrella term that includes multiple different things underneath it. And that includes patents. And now if you're looking at patents, as I kind of mentioned, patents are going to go towards invention, something that has a functionality, something that does something. So it can be software, it can be hardware, it can be electronics, whatever it might be, but it has to have that functionality, utility nature to it. Trademarks are going to also fall under intellectual property, and that goes more towards branding. So a name of a business, a name of a company, a product name, a logo, a catchphrase, all of those are going to fall under trademarks because it's associated with your brand. And the last thing is going to be on creatives, and that's going to be more of something that's creative in nature. So a book, a painting, a sculpture, a video, a television show, any of those kind of that's on the creative side, you can protect with copyrights. Now, as far as whether or not everybody needs some, well, sometimes, or the answer is no, not everybody needs them. Not everybody would want to pursue those because they may not have a good return. So I'll give you an example. If you are going to start what I would say a mom and pop shop, in other words, it's going to serve just a local community. You're going to serve a small radius, and really your aspirations are, hey, I just want to serve the local community. That's great that you're serving the local community. I definitely think it's amicable, but you don't need to worry as much about intellectual property, because you're not probably going to have a lot of copyrighted material is going to have a lot of value. You're not necessarily creating a new invention, and your brand is going to be pretty localized or pretty small. And so you probably don't need to protect a brand on a larger scale. But on the other hand, let's say you're going to go build a business and you're going to make the world's best product. Well, then you should probably, if you're going to go and create the next best iPhone or the next best widget, you need to have a patent that helps you protect that, so that all that time, money, and investment that you put into it is now going to be protected. Same thing if you're going to build a brand. Now, let's say rather than being a mom and pop shop, you're going to go build a brand and you want to sell nationwide, or you want to be online and e-commerce, or you're going to have a franchises, or you're going to have any number of things where you're going to have a bigger footprint. Then you're going to want to make sure you have that to protect it. And it's kind of the same thing with copyrights. If you're just going to do some pictures or creatives for fun, wouldn't worry about it. But if you're going to say, no, we're going to take some really good photographs, or we're going to create music and we're going to license it and sell it, then you're going to want to make sure to have it protected. So that's kind of the overview, a little bit of what is the different areas of intellectual property and where it may or may not be applicable.
So basically, you mentioned an example for brick and mortar businesses, like, for example, a shop on the street. But how about online businesses? Like now, if someone gets some kind of a domain.com or .net or .org, anything. So does these people have to have copyrights or intellectual properties and register them, or it does not have to be necessary because they already, for example, have the domain name already?
So yeah, so that there's I would say three different things that people tend to get a bit mixed up on. So One is for a business formation. If you're here in the US, I'd be an LLC, an S Corp, or a C Corp. And that one's just basically you're with the state and with the government, you're establishing the, hey, I'm a business and or I'd like to have that. And as far as taxes, I'd like to have the legal protections of a business. That's one thing. Second thing is buying the URL, buying their website domain. And you can say www.whatever.com and you own that. Third one is going to be trademarks, where it's the actual, hey, I'm going in with the government. I'm saying I own this brand for these types of products and services. Each one of those are separate and they don't have overlapping coverage. So you can go buy the domain name. It doesn't mean you have the right to use a brand. So if I were to go and I have no idea if it's available, well, let's say I went and bought Nike and I spelled Nike with 2 E's. So I said Nikee.com, that, or for whatever reason that was available. It doesn't mean that now I can go and use a brand Nike with 2 E's, because it's very likely to infringe on Nike with 1 E that everybody knows and has a very big brand. So just because you have the domain doesn't mean you can use that trademark. Same thing, I can go have a trademark for the word Nike, or whatever the business name might be, and it doesn't mean I have to go buy the domain name. I can go and operate a business. Let's say I have a brick and mortar store, to your point, and now, or to your question, and I don't have online business. I am purely just brick and mortar. People come and shop at my store. Perfectly fine. I still have the ownership of that trademark and that name, and I don't have to be online in order to have it. Same thing with business. So or business, and when you get an LLC or form of business. So each of those are going to be separate. A lot of times people think if I have the domain or I have the trademark or I have the business or registered that I'm covered across all three, but you really do have to treat each of them separately.
Yeah, exactly. So when someone wants to, at certain point, whether a startup starting out just now or after a while in their business, like how much this process takes? Is it fast process for them, specifically if they are an online business? Is there a different process to brick and mortar businesses, and does it cost that much for them?
You're saying for trademarks, as far as, what does the process cost if you're to protect a brand? It's going to be the same process, whether you're e-commerce, online, or whether you're brick and mortar, because you're still looking to secure your rights to a brand and to a name. So whichever that is still that same process. Now, as far as the kind of the cost and what that looks like, it's going to be, generally for a trademark application, depending, one of the things when you file a trademark, you have to do is you have to identify the classes or the categories you're going to be using the trademark for. So let's say we'll go back to the Nike example. They have a trademark for athletic wear, sports gear, and apparel because that's what they sell, and that's what they have a trademark for. They don't have anything in restaurants because they don't do anything in restaurants. And so with that, you have to identify it. So there is a bit of variability in cost, because for each category or each class, you have to pay the government more fees. In other words, if you do more categories and more classes, the government wants you to pay more to have those categories. So you're typically looking at, for an average business to go through the trademark process to get or acquire a trademark, usually $1,500 to $2,000, somewhere generally in there. It can be a little bit more, a little bit less, but that kind of gives you a ballpark average to get through the process.
So do you recommend a business registering from the beginning, from the first day, or let them, for example, because we know a lot of stats say that like 80 to 90% of businesses fail. So do you, for example, see or recommend from your business view to let them operate for a year, 6 months, a year, 2 years, to see if they are actually profitable, and then register the company and have its legal side on the okay side, let's say? Or do you recommend them go right at it from the beginning and register the names or trademarks or logos or copyrights?
Yeah, I mean, so I would answer it a couple ways. If you have a reasonable, it depends a little bit on the business. So let's say you're coming in, you have a budget. Earlier always better, because if you can, or if you're looking to secure the rights to a name, to a business name, to a product name, and that's where you're going to be focusing around, or copyrights, and you're doing something on the creative nature, or patents for that matter, earlier in the legal system is almost always better. It provides some advantages. Now, as a practical nature, the difficulty is while you love to do it earlier, there's always budgets, and you always have more things to spend money on than money to spend as a business. And so you're always saying, where does the balance come? And so generally my rule of thumb is, if or when you're approaching the point where you're going to have an ouch factor, where if somebody were to come along, they were to copy the name of your business, they were to copy the name of your product, or the, or copy whatever the value of your business are, and you say, well, that's not that big of a deal. We can pivot, we can adjust, we can rebrand. We really haven't invested that much. Then you're probably not at the point that it makes sense to invest in a trademark because you really don't have anything of value yet. But on the other hand, you're saying, hey, we either are or currently are getting ready to launch a major marketing campaign or an online advertising campaign. We're going to put thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars into the brand, into the business. We're going to market it. Or, hey, we're going to set up a franchising model and we're going to go sell this and pitch this. We're going to go to trade shows. In other words, you're doing a lot of work to actually put in a value to that brand. And you're saying, no, if somebody were to come along, knock that off or copy it, now I do have an issue to where it's going to be expensive. If I can rebrand it or I can adjust it or somebody copies it, it's going to be a big expense to the company. Then you're getting to the point that you are going to want to invest in it. So it's less of how early or late, it's more of, have you done anything to build the value into that brand? And if you either have short-term plans where you're going to, or you already have, then you're going to want to make sure to protect it.
Yeah, I am asking because I watch the show Shark Tank. So sometimes businesses or entrepreneurs come into the show and they don't have a profit, for example, and they have registered the company name and trademarks and logos and whatever, and they have paid some kind of money for it, for attorneys and these kind of things. And at the end of the day, their business is not really making anything. So, and the name itself sometimes does not mean really. The name does not mean anything to sell the name, the brand name, for example. So yeah, that could be maybe some kind of mistake. So I don't know. It could be like, from my point of view, I think maybe it should take a year at least for a business, and then maybe do the legal stuff. Especially I'm talking about online businesses.
No, I mean, that one's, I love Shark Tank. I think it's a fun show to watch, and definitely you can get some great business ideas and a bit of direction and guidance. And this is entertaining. But the question is, some of those shows, hey, they haven't been profitable, but they've also been, they're doing, hey, in other words, sometimes for some businesses, you have to have a critical mass. You have to have so many customers, so many sales, so much recurring revenue before you can get, enough of a break point in your costs to be profitable. Or you have to have so many recurring clients, or you have to do customer acquisition. And so you're still investing a lot of time, money, and effort into that brand. You just haven't started to recoup the profit. Well, you still invest in a lot of those businesses have still invested a lot of money in that branding and getting the marketing going, trying to get that, a threshold of customers, getting that recurring customers and recurring revenue. And so there's still a value in that brand, even though they haven't realized a profit, they've still invested a lot and there's still value to the business. So in those cases, if they're in that camp, it still makes sense where you're going to be a lot of investment into that brand, into the business, to be able to have that secured. On the other hand, they're just saying, hey, I've started this, I had an idea, we haven't really got it going yet, we haven't launched it yet, we think it's going to be a good idea, but we really haven't gotten anywhere. Then I wouldn't go and invest yet, because no, you haven't made a profit, your business isn't really up and going, and there isn't something really that you're protecting or investing in yet.
Okay, so let's talk about how you specifically work with companies that do want to protect their business. Do you have some certain strategies that you implement with them to protect their business specifically for the future? Because as we know, businesses, if they were to be successful in the future more and more and have more growth, they will be bigger companies and have more revenues and profits. So what are the strategies that you work on with your company, with the business owners or startups?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we're set up to do trade, or to help startups and small businesses with patents, trademarks, and copyrights. As far as a lot of the things that you're considering, or the startups and small businesses are sensitive to, one is transparent pricing. How much is this going to cost me, and when do I have to pay for it? Right? Those are a lot of times the questions. In addition to, obviously, do I need this? But if you're saying, hey, I've decided that it makes sense, I need to invest in it, then you're going to say, well, do I need this? Or if I need this, and what is going to cost me, and when do I have to pay for it? And so, at least for us, and every firm is a bit different, but the way we set it up is, one, we do almost everything off of flat fees. In other words, It is, hey, this is what it's going to cost for you to for us to file a trademark application for it, or a patent application, or this is how much it's going to do an agreement, or those type of things. When we try and set that up to be as easy and transparent as possible, so people understand the price. And the other thing that at least we've done is we also have set up payment plans. In other words, we kind of offer two options where you can either pay for the matter up front, or we also have a payment plan where you can spread out the costs over 4 payments over 4 months. And again, a lot of times that's for startups and small businesses saying, okay, now I know how much this is going to cost. And if we don't have that money in hand, we can spread out that cost. Or if we just like to pay it up front, we can get that taken care of. So those are kind of, as you're looking to kind of get things kicked off, get things started, how you might consider what that might cost and kind of what those options might be.
Yeah. So let's say a business is completely registered. Like for example, you mentioned Nike and Adidas and these kind of things. So maybe someone starts some kind of a business and registered, and they have all the rights to it, logos and everything. So is there some kind of maybe something that might go wrong? Let's say some other guy comes in and says, this is my logo, or this is my slogan, or this is my something that I own, or is it like the company now is 100% protected and there is nothing anyone can do around this business?
No, I mean, there's always the possibility. So, the trademark office, you go through let's say you go through, you file a trademark application, it gets registered and you have a trademark. Well, that gives you a presumption that what you are trademarking is valid and is trademarkable and you own that. Now, and for the most part, it gives you a pretty good level of protection. There is an exception though, is if, one is the examiners that are at the trademark office are human. In other words, they could overlook or miss something that they should have caught, and that that it wasn't caught when they did the examination. And in that sense, you could still be infringing someone's trademark. The other thing is that, just because the examiner says, hey, I don't think there's an issue here, doesn't mean a business that already has a trademark may say, no, there is an issue. You are infringing our trademarks. And they could always take a different view and come in and send a cease and desist letter or file a lawsuit. And, you'd have to go through the process and discuss, hey, we can show that we are different. We went through the trademark process. This is how the examiner and we view it and how an ordinary person would, and there isn't an issue, or you're going to have to make that argument. So it gives you a good level of protection. It gives you a much better assurance that you have that you have that protection, that you have a clearance to go forward. But no, it's not 100% foolproof that once you get a trademark that there'll never be any possible issue down the road. That's almost going to be the same with any legal issue, is there isn't a way that you can 100% always protect yourself. What you're looking to do is give the best level of protection, the best level of shielding and guidance and value, or protecting what you're doing. And then you're going to operate your business, and you're going to have to be anticipating or otherwise build in that some things always go wrong, or some things don't always go as you anticipate, and you have to be able to navigate that as a business.
Yeah. So looking into your business, how much growth, for example, in your business do you see going?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's always a bit hard to anticipate. You always want to grow. You're always looking to expand and to do it. And for me, it has to be a reason for growth, not just growth for growth's sake. In other words, hey, a lot of startups or small businesses and law firms in general is going to say, well, we want to have a bigger office. We want to have more staff. Well, why do you want to have bigger office? Why do you want to have more staff? Well, excuse me. It's because we're going to make more money. And yet you go look at them, and they're law firms that go under, that aren't profitable, that are living paycheck to paycheck, or waiting for that next big case that they win. Because just because they grow doesn't mean that they're more profitable or they're more successful. So for me, it's less about the growth in the sense of, hey, we just got to go and have more attorneys or have a bigger staff or have bigger offices. It's more of, hey, what are our goals? Well, we want to be able to still focus on startups and small businesses. We want to be able to be profitable. We want to be able to work with the clients we want to work with. We want to have the culture and the environment we want to do, and all those kind of factor into that. And then once we do, say, now how does that fit within the growth? So yes, our plan is to grow, to expand, to continue to help the clients, and to have the firm that I enjoy working at. But it is with that, the growth is going to be with the goals and manage it the way we want to, not just try and grow as big and as fast as possible.
Yeah. So from looking at this angle itself, do you prefer, for example, growth from a referral side, as I mean, like, do you believe that some clients can recommend you for other clients? Is that a good business you can do? Or for example, you can do online advertising and ads?
For us, it's really kind of a mixture of a few different things. We will do a bit of online advertising. We do a lot of organic. We do SEO. We do a lot on LinkedIn. We do a lot of referrals and otherwise with our current clients. And for me, it's a combination of, we have multiple efforts in different areas, because we've seen, some areas that will go up at some points and then it tapers back down. And then while those other ones are tapering back down, the other ones are going back up. And so for me, I'm not going to kind of put all my eggs in one basket, or just simply say, hey, we're just going to go and spend as much as we can on AdWords, because AdWords, you can only blast so much, you can only find so many people, and then there starts to be a diminishing return. And same thing is on SEO or organic. You can only be so optimized, you can only have so much traffic, and then for that incremental thing, it becomes more work for a less return. So we're always looking to find that balance between all the efforts, and it's really a combination of kind of the different efforts that I mentioned.
Okay. So Devin, what would you say to the audience who are listening and they want to start a business?
It sounds really simple or cliche, but I would say get started. Without all of the businesses I've done, with the ones I've worked with, almost everybody, the way, or the same note, or the same thing that most people say is, I wish I'd got started earlier, and I've enjoyed it, and I would never do it. And it doesn't mean that they're all successes. Some of them failed, some of them pivoted, some of them are on their second or third startup or doing other businesses. Some people found out that they don't like doing startups, and they're now back to doing their corporate job. But in all cases, they found out they were able to pursue and try something out, do something, or very often find something that they love, and they wish they got started earlier. So my simple advice would just be to get started now, figure out a way to implement what you want to do with your startup. Doesn't mean you have to quit your job and go all in, but start a side hustle, start a business, start a small e-commerce online, or start something and get going on it, and see if you like it, enjoy it. And if so, then you're not going to look back and regret that you didn't do it earlier.
Yeah, definitely, you are right. Starting something, at least this is, you should have started. We only have one life, so why not start and do something? Maybe it will turn out something to be great. You never know that. Instead of looking 10 years back and wishing you started then.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
So where can people get in touch with you if they want to check out the website, if they need help having trademark for their businesses, or patents, or copyrights consultations?
Yeah, so easiest way, if they want to do a one-on-one consultation, meet with me, grab some time on my calendar. I do free 15-minute consultations where we chat a little bit what you have going on, answer some questions, and see if we can help you out. They can go to strategymeeting.com. That links right to my calendar. You can grab some time to chat there. And then if they want to connect up with me more in general, just find out more about the website, the firm, find out our flat fees and everything else, they can go to lawwithmiller.com. So those are the two easiest ways. Go to lawwithmiller.com for the general website, and strategymeeting.com if they want to connect up with me one-on-one.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Devin, for being here today with me on this very insightful episode for startups and new businesses.
Hey, my pleasure. Definitely happy to chat, and appreciate you having me on. And it was a great conversation.
Awesome.